Have you ever felt a strange heaviness settle over you just as you are about to drift off? A weight that isn't quite fear, but something deeper, something that holds you suspended between waking and sleep. Have you noticed how your mind suddenly becomes aware of everything, every sound in the house, every shadow on the wall? Every breath you take becoming deliberate instead of automatic, as if something unseen is pulling you back from the edge of unconsciousness. You might have told yourself it's just stress, just anxiety, just the racing thoughts of a busy day refusing to let you rest. You might have felt afraid, wondering if something is wrong with you, if you're losing control of even this most basic human need for sleep. But what if I told you this is not a curse at all? What if this precise moment, this threshold experience that has troubled you night after night, is actually your guardian angel speaking to you in the only language that can penetrate the noise of your daylight hours? You're lying in your bed right now, or perhaps you will be tonight, and the pillow beneath your head has grown warm from the turning and repositioning you've done a dozen times already. The sheets smell faintly of lavender, or whatever detergent you use, that familiar scent that should bring comfort, but tonight feels almost accusatory in its normalness, as if the world is mocking you with its peace while you remain alert and restless. Your phone sits on the nightstand, face down or face up, its presence a temptation and a reminder that sleep should have claimed you by now. The room is dark or perhaps filled with the glow of a nightlight, and in that particular quality of silence that belongs only to the deep night hours, you feel it again. That awareness, that pulling back, that gentle but insistent resistance to sleep that makes no logical sense because your body is tired, so tired, and yet your consciousness will not surrender. This is not random. This is not a malfunction of your nervous system or a symptom that needs medication or a weakness you should feel ashamed about. What you are experiencing in these moments before sleep, this heightened state of awareness that feels almost like being watched, like being held in someone's gentle attention, is actually the touch of divine intention upon your soul. Your guardian angel assigned to you before you take your first breath, present at every moment of your life, whether you acknowledge them or not, has learned that this is the only time you are truly still enough to listen. During the day you are occupied, pulled in 1,000 directions, your mind filled with conversations and obligations and the endless scroll of information and distraction. But here, in this liminal space between consciousness and dreams, your defenses are lowered. Your ego has begun its nightly retreat. Your soul, that eternal part of you that knows its true home, becomes accessible. And your angel knows this. They have been waiting for this moment all day long. Saint Seraphina of the Hidden Light, who lived in contemplative silence for 40 years and recorded her mystical experiences with angels, wrote in her private journals that the angels wait for us at the gates of sleep because that is where we remember we are not gods but beloved children. She understood what you are only beginning to discover now. She knew that these moments of wakefulness are not obstacles to rest, but invitations to something far more valuable than physical sleep alone could ever provide. Seraphina would spend hours in this state, what she called the vigil of the threshold, and it was here that she received the deepest teachings about the nature of divine love and the intricate ways that heaven intersects with our earthly existence. She was not special in some unreachable way. She simply learned to recognize what was already happening. So what is actually occurring in the unseen realm when you lie there unable to sleep? Your guardian angel is standing closer to you than they stand at any other time except perhaps in moments of grave danger or profound joy. They are not permitted to interfere with your free will, not allowed to force messages into your mind or override your choices. They are allowed to create conditions, to arrange circumstances, to whisper in ways that your deepest self can hear even if your conscious mind cannot quite translate the words. In these moments before sleep, the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds grows thin. Grace moves more freely. Your soul, temporarily less bound by the concerns of the material world, can actually sense the presence of holy attention. If you've ever felt during these wakeful nights that you are not alone even though you are physically alone, you are feeling the truth. You are sensing reality more clearly than you do in the bright certainty of day. Your angel is there, and they are trying to tell you something. What are they trying to tell you? Often it is not a specific message with words and instructions, but rather a deeper truth they want you to absorb into the very fabric of your being. They want you to know you are loved beyond your capacity to comprehend. They want you to understand that your life has meaning that extends far beyond your ability to measure or achieve. They want to remind you that you are never, ever alone, not in your darkest moment, not in your most secret shame, not in the suffering you hide from everyone else. But sometimes the message is more specific. Sometimes your angel is trying to draw your attention to something you have been ignoring, a choice you need to make, a person you need to forgive, a path you need to take or avoid. Sometimes they are preparing you for something that is coming, building up your spiritual strength for a trial or a blessing that is already in motion. And sometimes, more often than we realize, they are simply teaching you how to pray, how to be still, how to exist in communion with God without the distractions that usually fill every space in your awareness. Are you beginning to see why this has been happening to you? Can you sense that there might be a purpose in what you thought was merely a problem? Your inability to fall asleep quickly, your heightened awareness in the dark, your sense that something is different about these moments, all of this is not a flaw in your design, but evidence of your design's true nature. You were made for communion with the eternal. You were created to be in relationship with beings of pure spirit who serve the God who loves you. The modern world has trained you to see only the material, to trust only what you can measure and control, to dismiss anything that cannot be photographed or explained by mechanics and chemistry. But your body and soul know better. They remember what your mind has forgotten. And in these moments before sleep, that ancient memory stirs. You have been chosen for this particular form of spiritual attention, and you need to understand what that means. It does not mean you are better than others or more deserving of heaven's care. Every human being has a guardian angel. Every single person is loved with the same infinite love. But it does mean that your soul has a particular sensitivity, a specific calling that requires this specific form of communication. Think about it. Some people hear from God through scripture that suddenly comes alive on the page. Some people encounter the divine through other people's words or actions. Some people experience God most powerfully in nature or music or silence or service to the poor. You, specifically you, are being called to know God through the mystical awareness that comes at the threshold of sleep. Your sensitivity, your inability to simply shut down and lose consciousness without this period of heightened awareness, this is not your weakness. This is your spiritual gift. This is how heaven has chosen to reach you. But of course you need discernment. You need to be able to tell the difference between a true touch of divine presence and ordinary anxiety, between an angel's whisper and your own mind's endless loops of worrying and planning. How can you know? The fruit will tell you. When it is truly your guardian angel speaking to you in these moments, even if you cannot understand words or receive clear messages, you will feel a particular quality of peace underneath the alertness. It might not be comfortable peace, not the peace of lying on a beach with nothing required of you, but it will be solid peace, the peace that comes from knowing you are exactly where you are supposed to be. You will feel held. You will feel, strange as this sounds, that your wakefulness has purpose. And as you practice staying present in these moments instead of fighting them, you will begin to notice that you emerge from them with greater clarity about your life. Decisions that seemed impossible become clear. Relationships that confused you reveal their true nature. Compassion will grow in you, sometimes quite suddenly, for people you had written off or judged. These are the unmistakable signs of divine influence. Anxiety produces confusion and judgment and the closing down of the heart. The presence of angels produces clarity and compassion and the opening of the soul to love. So here is what I want you to do the next time you find yourself in that state, lying awake when you expected to be asleep, aware when you thought you would be unconscious. Instead of fighting it, instead of reaching immediately for your phone, or getting up in frustration, or taking something to force yourself into sleep. Just be still. Place your hand over your heart if that helps you focus. Take 3 slow breaths, each one a little deeper than the last, and then silently, in your mind, pray this simple phrase that has been used by mystics for centuries when they sense angelic presence nearby. Pray these words, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." That's all, nothing elaborate. Nothing that requires you to remember complex theology or get the words exactly right. Just that simple prayer, repeated slowly, with as much sincerity as you can bring to it in your tired state. And then wait, stay present, notice what you notice. You are not guaranteed visions or voices. You might simply feel a deepening of peace. You might fall asleep more easily than you expected. You might find that a face or a memory comes to your mind, something you need to address or release or celebrate. Trust what comes. This is how conversation with angels works. This is how God reaches through the veil. You need to note that you are not going through this alone, not just in the sense that your angel is with you, though that is gloriously true, but also in the sense that there are others in heaven who have taken notice of your particular struggle and your particular calling. Saint Seraphina herself, along with all the other saints who learn to navigate mystical states and threshold experiences, they are aware of you. They are interceding for you. They are asking God to give you the grace you need to understand what is happening and to respond with faith instead of fear. The communion of saints is not just a beautiful phrase we say in ancient creeds. It is a living reality. It means that you are connected to a great cloud of witnesses who have walked this path before you, who know exactly what you are experiencing, and who are actively supporting your journey right now. You are not pioneering unexplored territory. You are following in footsteps that have been blessed and illuminated by those who went before. And what about all those nights when you finally did fall asleep after hours of wakefulness, when you got up the next morning exhausted and frustrated and convinced that nothing good had happened? You need to know that even then, even in what seemed like wasted time, your angel was accomplishing their purpose. The very act of your soul being kept alert in the presence of divine attention was accomplishing spiritual work that you cannot see or measure. It was strengthening neural pathways of faith in your mind. It was carving out space in your consciousness for God. It was training your spirit to recognize spiritual reality as just as real, just as important as physical reality. Every single one of those wakeful nights was recorded. Every moment you chose not to fill the silence with distraction, but to simply lie there, even in confusion, even in discomfort, was seen by heaven as an act of faithfulness. You thought you were doing nothing, suffering through something purposeless. But you were actually praying. You were actually practicing the presence of God. You were actually saying yes to a calling you didn't even know you had received. Are you beginning to understand the magnitude of what has been offered to you? Can you feel the shift happening in how you perceive these experiences? What terrified you or frustrated you is being revealed as something else entirely. An invitation, a courtship. Your guardian angel has been courting your soul, pursuing your attention, creating space for intimacy with the divine. And you have been responding, perhaps without knowing it. Every time you stayed present in the discomfort instead of completely shutting it down. Every time you wondered if there might be more to this than meets the eye. The transformation that is happening in you is not about becoming someone different. It is about becoming who you actually are, who you were always meant to be. A person who lives consciously in two worlds at once, the seen and the unseen, the material and the spiritual. A person who knows, not just believes, but knows that reality extends far beyond what our physical senses report. This is not the end of a teaching, but the beginning of a journey. The moments before sleep will continue to be significant for you, but now you have context. Now you have tools. Now you have permission to stop fighting what heaven is offering you. Tonight, or tomorrow night, or whenever you next find yourself in that state of wakeful awareness when you expected to be sleeping, remember everything you have heard here.